I'm sorry. I just can't. Hello, I'm Steph, aka Literati Medium. So today was originally supposed to be a reading/travel vlog, but I failed horribly at that this last trip because I think the total footage ended up coming out to like maybe 2 minutes, and that's just not long enough for a video. So instead, I'm going to play off of last week's video where I talked about the top 10 rated books that I've read, and this week I'm going to do the 10 lowest rated books that I've read according to Goodreads. So similar, but the reverse of last week, if multiple books of a series show up on this list, I'm actually going to combine them and put them closer to number 10. I also won't spend a lot of time talking about books that I've already talked about on this channel. Instead, I'll just give you the links if you want to check out those videos. So number 10 was Aurelia by Anne Osterland. I'm going to read the summary of this book to you because honestly, I read this book so long ago, I didn't really remember what it was about. Princess Aurelia is next in line to rule the kingdom of Tyralt, but she would rather be one of the common folk, free to learn and roam and not marry the next tyrannical prince that comes courting. Naturally, the king wants Aurelia to marry for political power. Aurelia wants to marry for love, and someone in the kingdom wants her dead. Assigned to investigate and protect Aurelia is Robert, the son of the king's former royal spy and one of Aurelia's oldest friends. As Aurelia and Robert slowly uncover clues as to who is threatening her, their friendship turns to romance. With everything possible on the line, her life, her kingdom, her heart, Aurelia is forced to take matters into her own hands, no matter the cost. I honestly don't remember much about this book, but I remember being slightly underwhelmed. I think I remember wanting it to be a bit more of an adventure story, and instead it was just like a straight-up romance. Number 9 on this list was The Hound Saga by Met Ivy Harrison. He is a prince, heir to a kingdom threatened on all sides, possessor of the animal magic which is forbidden by death in the land he'll rule. She is a princess from a rival kingdom, the daughter her father never wanted, isolated from true human friendship but inseparable from her hound. Though they think they have little in common, each possesses a secret that must be hidden at all costs. Proud, stubborn, bound to marry for the good of their kingdoms, this prince and princess will steal your heart. But will they fall in love? So I read these books a long time ago, which is going to be a trend for this video, but I had read both of them, so I obviously enjoyed the first one enough to read the second one. I just don't remember them being particularly memorable either. So number 8 is Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. While I haven't talked about this series on this channel before, I'm not going to read you the summary because, again, where have you been in the last, 20 years? I think it's only been 10 years. Where have you been in the last 10 years? When I first read these books, I recognized that they weren't the best written books. They had pacing issues. It was always 2/3 of the book was just the romance, and then the last little third or quarter even was the plot. So I recognized that they had pacing issues, but I did think that the take on vampires and werewolves was interesting and nothing I had seen before. I actually remember kind of being pretty excited when they announced the movies as well. And then I watched the movie. The movie was very faithfully adapted, which actually was a problem because they could have had the opportunity to fix a lot of these problems that were inherent to the storytelling, and instead they didn't. Also, it really made me realize how much Bella does not have a personality outside of the men that she's with. Number 7 on this list is The Crucible by Arthur Miller. I'm actually surprised that an American classic like this is on this list. I know that I personally hated it. If you haven't read this book, it's about the Salem witch trials. Or I guess it's a screenplay, not screenplay, it's a play. As I said, I did not enjoy this book. I rated it 1 star on Goodreads, but I read it for school, so I'm not really upset that I read it. Number 6 on this list is Evermore by Alison Noel. This is book 1 of the Immortal series. After a horrible accident claims the lives of her family, 16-year-old Ever Bloom can see people's auras, hear their thoughts, and know someone's entire life story by touching them. Going out of her way to avoid human contact to suppress her abilities, she has been branded a freak at her new high school. But everything changes when she meets Damon Augusta. Damon is gorgeous, exotic, and wealthy. He's the only one who can silence the noise and random energy in her head, wielding a magic so intense it's as though he can peer straight into her soul. As Ever is drawn deeper into his enticing world of secrets and mystery, she's left with more questions than answers, and she has no idea just who he really is, or what he is. The only thing she knows to be true is that she's falling deeply and helplessly in love with him. I honestly don't remember much about this book. I do know that I liked the first one enough to read, I think, the second one, but I did not finish the series, and I have no real interest in going back to finish the series. Number 5 was Landline by Rainbow Rowell. Georgie McCool knows her marriage is in trouble. It has been in trouble for a long time. She still loves her husband Neil, and Neil still loves her deeply, but that almost seems beside the point now. Maybe that was always beside the point. 2 days before they're supposed to go visit Neil's family in Omaha for Christmas, Georgie tells Neil that she can't go. She's a TV writer, and something's come up on her show. She has to stay in Los Angeles. She knows that Neil will be upset with her. Neil is always a little upset with Georgie. But she doesn't expect him to pack up the kids and go home without her. When her husband and the kids leave for the airport, Georgie wonders if she's finally done it, if she's ruined everything. That night, Georgie discovers a way to communicate with Neil in the past. It's not time travel exactly, but she feels like she's been given an opportunity to fix her marriage before it starts. Is that what she's supposed to do? Or would Georgie and Neil be better off if their marriage never happened? So I keep having to tell myself that a 3.55 star rating on Goodreads is not a bad rating. Maybe it's because I just read it, but I don't really think that it deserves to be on this list. I loved the character voices, and the audiobook was really well done. I did spend the majority of the book just screaming in my head for Georgie to do something instead of waiting for Neil to do something, like Neil always does something. That being said, the ending has a good payoff. Number 4 on this list is The Magicians by Lev Grossman. Quentin Coldwater is brilliant but miserable. A senior in high school, he's still secretly preoccupied with a series of fantasy novels he read as a child, set in a magical land called Fillory. Imagine his surprise when he finds himself unexpectedly admitted to a very secret, very exclusive college of magic in upstate New York, where he receives a thorough and rigorous education in the craft of modern sorcery. He also discovers all the other things people learn in college: friendship, love, sex, booze, and boredom. Something is missing, though. Magic doesn't bring Quentin the happiness and adventure he dreamed it would. After graduation, he and his friends make a stunning discovery. Fillory is real. But the land of Quentin's fantasies turns out to be much darker and more dangerous than he could have imagined. His childhood dream becomes a nightmare with a shocking truth at its heart. So I actually read this as a buddy read a few years ago with one of my friends, after having seen the first 2 seasons of the TV show. And I really enjoyed the first 2 seasons of the TV show. I hated this book. By the end, I no longer cared for any of the characters. The first half is pretty great. The half where he is in the school learning magic is great. But then that floundering post-college period was just so annoying, and I just lost any love that I had for the characters. Both my friend and I, by the end, were like, we're done with this series. We're not reading anymore. Number 3 was Witch by Kathy Holder. Holly Cathers' world shatters when her parents are killed in a rafting accident. She is wrenched from her home in San Francisco and sent to Seattle to live with her aunt, Mary Claire, and her twin cousins, Amanda and Nicole. But sorrow and grief soon give way to bewildered fascination as one by one, strange incidents begin to occur, such as the fact that any desire Holly whispers to her cat seems to come true, or the fact that a beloved friend is injured after a freak attack from a vicious falcon, or the fact of an undeniably magnetic and familiar attraction to a boy Holly barely knows. Holly, Amanda, and Nicole are about to be launched into a dark legacy of secrets, alliances, and machinations, where ancient magics yield dangerous results, where possession is commonplace, and where reincarnation is taken for granted. And the 3 girls must take on roles in an intergenerational feud, the likes of which they could never have imagined. So I actually remember really liking this book up to a point that I can't really get into without serious spoilers. All I can really say is that when this thing happened, any love I felt for the main character was just gone. I actually held on to the second book for a long time after finishing this book in the hopes that I would read it, but I just couldn't put myself through that again. Number 2 is A Recipe for Death by Landry Q. Walker. When his sous chef turns up dead, The cook at Maz Kanata's castle holds an unusual competition to find the culprit in A Recipe for Death. So I read this as part of reading the Disney canon in chronological order. This doesn't actually fit anywhere in the chronological order per se, and it's actually a short story. I don't really know why it's number 2 on this list. I mean, it has a 3.19 rating on Goodreads, so it's not terrible, and in fact, nothing on my list has a really low rating on Goodreads. That being said, when I'm picking a book on Goodreads to consider reading, I usually try to stay above 4 stars. I don't remember being particularly let down by this story, but I don't remember being particularly interested in it either. Number 1 on this list, the worst rated book on Goodreads that I have read, is Bewitching Amelia by Elia Fairborn. If you want to know more about why I didn't like it, go check out this video. I'll just read a brief synopsis because I didn't really do it for last video. A young woman is widowed at a young age because her husband was killed during the First World War. Not having any other family or friends to speak of, she has decided to hire herself out as a companion to older women, basically a glorified secretary or personal assistant. I resent that. I'm an executive assistant, and that's essentially a personal assistant or secretary. So I'm kind of insulted just by the summary alone. I wish I had read it before I, bought the book. Well, I didn't really buy the book. It was free on Audible. When on a trip to the French Riviera with her employer, she comes in contact with a dark and mysterious widower, a former military officer by the name of Septimus Creed. I'm sorry. I just can't. His name is Septimus Creed. I mean, there have been some rough names. I'm sorry, Elia. I'm sure you have redeemed yourself as a writer since this, but oh my god, really? Who is very rich, and all of the rich older ladies want to nab him, but he comes to only have eyes for her. They begin to spend time together, and when it comes time for her to leave with her employer, he offers to marry her and take her back to his estate so they never have to be apart. A little unsure of marrying someone so soon that she is not sure she really loves yet, she is a bit apprehensive at first. That's the first bit of common sense from this character that I've read. But ultimately accepts, believing that the love part of her feelings will follow in time. They return to his grand estate, and she finds that she is in for quite a bit more than she bargained for. Will she be able to overcome these new challenges and preserve the love that she feels is blossoming between them? Or will she find that she made her bed too swiftly, and now she must live or die by the consequences? So I couldn't even read the synopsis with a straight face because I tried to listen to this on audiobook, and the audio book is just so bad. I don't even know if it was the writing or the narrator. I can't tell you, but I literally couldn't. After 3 chapters, I was like, I am done with this. So there you have it. The 10 worst rated books that I've read. To wrap up this video, just because it's fun, and if you're interested in seeing it, I do have some beautiful footage from my reading vlog. So let's go on to that. Of course, please like, comment, and subscribe, and let's see what stories tomorrow brings.